Dravis. I'm the chair of the Corporate Governance Committee of the American Bar Association's Business Law section, and I'm talking with Frank Placenti, whose brainchild, the Director's Handbook, is the project that we're going to talk about today. And Frank, to start off, can you tell people about what the Director's Handbook is?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Bruce. The Director's Handbook is called a Field Guide to 101 Situations Commonly Encountered in the Boardroom. And so the book is divided into 101 chapters. Each chapter has a brief, and sometimes briefer than others, outline of the general nature of a topic, then followed by a series of questions. And in some cases, the list of questions is quite long. That relate to that topic, and then the final section of each chapter is a bibliography, a brief bibliography of where the director could go on the web and find additional information about the topic. So, for example, there's a chapter in here about press releases, and it describes some of the issues that directors ought to know about with respect to press releases, and then it gives them a series of questions to ask in the boardroom of management and of themselves about their company's press release policy, and then gives them a series of articles they can go and read about press releases.
Now, usually when you buy a book from the ABA, you buy a book that's got answers. What's the value of a book that's full of questions?
Well, in the governance field, I think most governance professionals would agree that there really are no one-size-fits-all answers. And on the other hand, there is a line of inquiry that can be made about any given topic that will lead the board to a better conclusion. And often, as I've spent 30 years in boardrooms, and I've watched as boards just fail to ask the right questions, and they don't get to the right place because management comes in with a recommendation perhaps. No one tests the assumptions that are underlying the recommendation. No one asks hard questions about issues relating to it, and they go ahead and make a decision, and they've never gotten around to asking the right questions. So that's the primary reason the book uses questions as a methodology. But a secondary reason is that whether you're a counselor to a board or whether you're a board member, questions are a very effective way of raising an issue in a less confrontational manner. So, for example, if management makes a presentation and you as a director were to say, I think you guys have missed a bunch of issues. That's sort of a confrontational way of dealing with the issue. Another way to get there, the same place, is have we considered this issue, or have we considered this question? And so I find questions not only a great way for a board to get to an informed result, but also a great way for board members to deal with each other in an effective methodology. Now, putting it in a legal context, board members have a duty of due care, and one of the best ways to exercise your duty of due care is to make inquiry. And so the book is really about making informed inquiry.
Because there's such a broad set of topics that are covered by the book, I would think that even with an experienced board and with several different members with different backgrounds on the board, issues are going to come up for the board where nobody has relevant experience, and would they be able to ask questions from the book and get guidance on the right questions to ask, or the category of questions?
So, for example, let's say that neither you nor anyone else in your boardroom has ever dealt with an internal investigation, right? You just never had to do that before. So how do you even know to start? Well, your general counsel should be of some assistance, but if you don't have an experienced general counsel, as might be the case in a smaller company, how do you even know what to ask? And that's really the niche that this book tries to fill. And the second thing that I think it can help with is directors do come to the boardroom with different levels of experience, and an extremely experienced board member and an unexperienced board member on a given topic. The lesser experienced board member can feel, constrained to challenge. And this is a way of giving that person, equipping them to ask intelligent questions and play a role in the discussion and the debate that the board might be having, and bring them, it's a bit of a level set with respect to different levels of experience.
In terms of the format of the book, too, it's written with the idea that directors and not only lawyers will read it, so it's not legalese.
Right. Each of the authors were asked to avoid a lot of legal jargon, although there is one chapter on jargon. There's actually a chapter on M&A in which the entire chapter is, here's all the M&A jargon that you're going to hear, and here's what it means. But it's intended really for a lay audience. We've also found, I've given out a number of copies to younger lawyers, younger associates who work with me in the governance area, and it's a great way for them to think about the advice that they might be giving to a board. So I think it's also a useful book for advisors. And I've been told that even a couple of law professors are teaching from the book because there are really currently no governance textbooks.
Well, I wanted to touch on the question of the value of the book for lawyers, too, because I think not only do directors benefit from being able to ask the right questions, not every attorney knows every question to ask, and having a few starting points to gather facts with clients seems like it ought to be a valuable tool.
Right. So, for example, let's say you've never dealt with a CEO succession problem before. It's just, you've been a corporate lawyer for a long time, but you've just never had to deal with CEO succession. There's a chapter on that, and it gives you a set of questions to ask yourself and then go in and make sure the board has asked. And I find it a very effective tool as a boardroom counselor to say things to a board like, you might want to ask about X. You might want to pursue an inquiry about Y. And so I do think it's a helpful tool for practitioners as well.
So somebody using this book, either on the board side or the attorney side, won't pick up the black letter law answers in the book necessarily, although there's some text describing the underlying law. But it's a terrific tool for doing factual development to make sure that everybody's working with the right set of facts as they tackle a legal issue.
Correct. And a business issue as well. I mean, there are questions that are trying to get at what are the underlying assumptions, what do we need to know. So, for example, going back to the one about internal investigations. Who should be conducting the investigation? Should there be a special board committee formed? Who should be on that committee? Does the committee need independent advisors? Can the company's general counsel participate in the internal investigation? There are no answers to those questions in the book, but those questions should be developing a record. The other thing they will help a board do, if the minutes are prepared properly, it will reflect that the board pursued appropriate and relevant lines of inquiry, helping them establish a record that they've exercised their duty of due care.
Any other elements of the book that you'd like to tell people about?
Well, I think it's important for them to know that there were a number of contributing authors from various jurisdictions. The thing that I found interesting in editing the book was I've been doing this a while, and so I thought I knew something about most of these topics. I laid out the 101 topics, so I knew that they were things that were relevant. But it was quite interesting to read the thoughts of other really experienced practitioners about that topic. And so I found myself, as I was editing, thinking, gosh, I didn't know that. It's not something I would have thought to ask. So I think even if you're an experienced practitioner, it's a way of giving yourself a reality check on topics.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for having developed this project. It's been a
pleasure.
Joy to work with.
Thank you, Bruce.